I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
All right, welcome in. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop, Monday, November 11th, broadcasting from the Puck Sports Studios built by Limbeck Lumber Contractors. Folks, they got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. The largest stock moldings in the Northwest, old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limbeck Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbecklumber.com. Follow everything on the social media platforms on Twitter. It's Puck Sports. We've changed it now to Puck Sports, and same there on Instagram. TikTok is Puck_sports, and of course on Facebook at Jason Puckett. And on the QR code, if you're watching on the stream on YouTube and X, that QR code at the bottom of your screen is going to take you to our Pucks Posse community membership. If you can, please sign up there. It would be wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm, of course, in the Limbeck Lumber Studios. Jim Moore, the go-to guy, with us on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, all brought to you by Clean Streak, professional window exterior cleaning service, and the one and only Bright Owl Lighting, professional Christmas lighting expert installers. Go-to guy, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Puck? It was a good weekend. The Cougs won, and anytime the Cougs win, I'm happy.
It was. Hey, for the Bright Owl Lighting, I stepped on you. That's your read. You're the one who's got to be pumping up Bright Owl Lighting. Let's go.
Yeah, but I think you took over knowing that I just stumble through these things a lot. But you appreciate that part about me, I think, because that's one of the things I'm known for is, some shitty ad reads occasionally.
I enjoy your ad reads. I really do.
You?
I enjoy it.
No, I was thinking about it today, though, when I coming back from my walk, and I was looking at the house that we're renting, and I just thought, man, how can I get up on a ladder to get those lights up there? And I
don't want to do it.
Man, I wish Bright Owl Lighting was down here in Deschutes County, but they've got this service, and everybody gets up on ladders, and you deal with the weather, and there might be a light out. You got to deal with extension cords everywhere, and it's just let the professionals do it at brightowllighting.com. Give them a call, free estimate, 360-675-2034. And my thanks to Brian Turner. My personal thanks for sponsoring my appearances on pucksports.com, the Daily Puck Drop, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. How's that, Puck?
You nailed it. See? What are you talking about?
I don't know if I
nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Yeah, it was good. It was a good weekend, other than I got the flu in Pullman, and then I just decided I started feeling sick as we were leaving Friday night, and then when I woke up Saturday morning, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not good. But it was the last game we're going to go to, and then I said to myself, I'll just get through it, because you know what solves getting sick? Bourbon. Bourbon will get you through anything.
Really?
So I just decided Saturday, bourbon's just going to be my friend, and it
helped.
Well, no, it didn't help at all. I mean, no. It helped, and it helped initially, but then it was I just knew that Sunday, it's just going to make it worse, and of course, and it did. But whatever, pulled through it. It was great. You're right. It was great to see a win for the Cougs. It was wonderful, and it was great to be over there. It was the weather was great
there.
What's that?
Who'd you run into?
Who did I run into? I don't think anybody nobody you would know. No, I don't think so. I mean, the same old. Oh, I saw our good buddy Donald Watts was there. I saw
Donald Watts, yeah, the converted Coug.
I saw D. Watts there. His tailgate was right by ours, and talked to Donald for a while, and we talked about the hoops team. He loves the basketball team, and so it was good to catch up with Donald. He looks great. He's doing much better.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. He looks. For those who don't know, Donald had a stroke. This was over a year ago, I think, and so he's been recovering from that, and all of his issues with his father, Slick, but Donald looks great. You would never know that he had a stroke. He's walking, talking. He looks great, but it was just good. It was a good game, and crowd was what I expected the crowd to be, but They finished off. I mean, they beat the tar out of that team, and they probably should have beat them by even more. And it got a little dicey there at the end because, those who had the Cougs at 20.5.
I know. So they bust off a 75-yard run, and I read where that was his first college carry.
First college carry.
Well, and then Puck, I don't know about others that were laying the 20.5, but I thought, God, I wonder if this coach will go for 2 here. And just why not? Let's just go for 2.
Yeah, he was hot, man. That guy, he got a penalty, like a 15-yard penalty. Like he was like accosting the refs all game long. Yeah, he was hot, man. You know who the backup? I could not believe the backup quarterback was the kid from Utah.
Really?
Bryson Barnes. Remember Barnes, the kid that came
Barnes
in the
was
Rose
pretty
Bowl?
good.
He was the backup quarterback. He came in on a few plays and had a few running plays. I was like,
oh, that's right. He did. He scored a touchdown too.
Yeah.
They brought him in, and everybody knew he was going to run, and he just ran
he scored anyways,
untouched anyway.
But it was good. They got the win. It was a comfortable win. They got 3 more to go, and we'll see where it goes. We didn't get any help from our friends with the Red Raiders. They let us down. I listened to that game on the way over.
Puck, they led 13-0.
I know, and they just let them come back and win. So we got let down by that. Puppies didn't help us. So now I'm done. I'm back on. They can lose by 50 the rest of the way.
Okay, good.
It was just that game. If they beat them, then I'm like, all right, I'm back on. I'm gonna root for them to beat these teams. But now that they look like that and they stand no chance against Oregon, 0 chance. They can lose by 100. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they may lose by 100 to Oregon because that Dan Lanning, he is going to run the damn score up on that team as much as he can. He scored late against Michigan, and he told the Michigan coach afterwards, listen, I had to score late because we need style points, and we need to have convincing wins.
Yeah, and plus they were favored by 14 in that game.
Yes, that's right.
And they needed coverage there.
I think this could be what's their most lopsided win ever? I don't know. I mean, like Washington's most lopsided win is that Jake Browning one. Didn't they score like 70 on him? This could be that ugly. It really could. It really, really could.
Well, let's hope so.
Well, yeah. So now I'm back on. So if I don't care what they do. Go Bruins. Go Ethan Garbers. All of it. Friday night and all that. But yeah, it was good. It was good to get over there. It was they handled their business and way to go. And again, I maintain this and I don't understand why. Downtown Moscow, 1,000 times better. That's where we stayed. Monarch Motel. You'll thank me later. Monarch Motel is a great place to stay. And then when you're there, you walk half a block down to the Moscow Ale House. You'll love it. You'll love the food. You'll love the beer. I'm a big fan of a French dip. Great French dip.
Oh, God, I love French dips.
Who doesn't?
That's like anytime I go somewhere, I have to have clam chowder to try out the different clam chowder. But French dip's the same way. And it irritates the hell out of me when the menu says piled high and it's not. They always say that, piled high. And then I hate it too. Why do they do this? Buck? So they
give it to me. What do they?
They have it. Okay, so they cut it in half, and then you pick it up and you go, oh God, that's pretty good. It's piled high, and then it kind of tapers toward the back of the the end of the roll. So you get the first couple bites, you get quite a bit. You get an inch or so. But the last bites, it's just mostly bread and maybe 1 or 2 little slices of roast beef. Just give me a full meal deal there, and then I'll rave about you having the best French dip in town if I get the chance. Word of mouth. I just don't understand it.
Okay, yes or no? Do you drink the au jus?
No, we've talked about this before. That's a little even barbarian for me.
Is that bad? Is that cross the line?
Too much salt.
I know, but it's so good. I do. I take a little.
But it's not soup. It's just something you're dipping.
I mean, do you like
sometimes get barbecue sauce to dip your French dip into, and then do you drink the barbecue sauce after you're done?
No. Do you do that? I've never done that. Is that good?
You've never done like warmed up barbecue sauce and then dip in that?
With the French dip?
Yeah.
No, I always go au jus.
Well, yeah, I know. I normally do too, but try it with barbecue sauce sometime.
I would probably drink the barbecue sauce too.
Well, you probably would.
I just like a good au jus. God, I love a good French dip. Yeah, that gets me. Is there anywhere around here? Not down in Bend. Anywhere in the Seattle area who is known? I want to know this right now. Who is known for the best French dip?
Well, I'm partial
in this
to
area.
Malarkey's in Issaquah. They've got a great prime rib dip, and it's
Okay,
you know,
that's
it's
what I'm
not like
talking about.
all these places are starting to charge like $20 and $22 and $24 for a French dip. There's a place in Issaquah that charges, it's over $20 for a French dip. But Malarkey's, try out Malarkey's there. Nolan will pour you a good drink too.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Here's another reason. Here's another reason why I'm gonna move over there eventually. Okay, Moscow, Idaho is going to be my new hometown. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. We went to a bar that I used to go to all the time. So it was our anniversary as well. So my wife's anniversary was on Saturday, and who doesn't want to spend it in Moscow? I don't know.
How many years?
I knew you were going to ask that, and it's you got to give me 1 second to do the math real quick, okay?
You hadn't figured
17 years.
Saturday when you
17 years. I'm slow. I'm all hopped up on NyQuil right now. 17 years. So we went to there's a live music spot in Moscow that we used to go to. We were in school. It's called John's Live Alley or John's Alley in Moscow. It's a great spot, and it's like 2 blocks from where we were staying. So we went there after the game. We got back to the hotel. It's like 11:30. I said, taking you out for your anniversary. Let's go to John's Alley. Who doesn't want to go there? And I just great live music. This guy was so good. It was so good. And we ordered, I don't know, we had like 4 drinks. It was $15.
Oh, two each.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I remember right, the bars in Idaho would close at 1.
For $15. Now maybe they didn't charge us for something. I don't know. Unbelievable. And my wife came up with a new cocktail. I don't know if it's new. It's new for her, and it was new for me. Because, very rarely do bars ever have Dr. Pepper on the gun. Right? Yeah, they got Coke and Diet, whatever. So Dr. Pepper and bourbon. You ever had that combo? Do you like Dr. Pepper?
I do like Dr. Pepper.
Next time you get some Dr. Pepper, mix it with a little Mississippi mud water, and I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. What a great combo. Unbelievable. $15 though. I'm like, I walked out of there.
Wait, 4 into 15, and not even $4 a drink?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well,
I don't know if
anytime
we
you
got
go to a
charged
bar
for all
in
of them.
Seattle or down here in Bend, all the drinks are $14 and $15.
That's what I'm saying.
Cocktails.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see if I have this straight. You opened the show saying you drank bourbon all day in Pullman, and then you went to Moscow, and then you had more cocktails. I mean, do you think that checks any of the Alcoholics Anonymous boxes at all?
No.
It doesn't?
I have
drinking morning, noon, and night?
Oh, I didn't. We didn't even get there till 4:30. We drove over Saturday morning. I didn't even get it. Didn't even pull in till 4:30.
Oh, okay.
Come on, guy. Don't try to make me out to be you. Stop.
Okay. I wasn't really drinking on Saturday. I didn't drink during the. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I had a couple Jack Daniels during the
you did.
game.
How's
What'd you do? Wait a minute. Before we leave your anniversary thing, did you get her a card, flowers? I mean, were you romantic? Did you say anything like professing your love, like I would have married you all over again, and all that bullshit you're supposed to say?
I didn't do any of it to her face, but what I did do is I went to Instagram and I posted all of that.
That's a key move there. God, those guys that do that are just the worst. There's a guy I know, Corey Nagel, that does that every year, and I just thanks, Corey, for making the rest of us look bad. And what a doofus!
It's not official.
Shit.
It's not. You don't officially love your bride or wish somebody a happy birthday until you go to social media to do so.
Yeah,
it's not official.
Why do guys do that?
I don't know. Just to make themselves look like they actually care when they probably don't.
Shouldn't you just say that in person to your wife? All that stuff.
And that's what I did. That's why we went to John's Alley.
So what'd you say to her?
Thanks for taking a chance on this guy. I didn't say anything
I want to tell you,
profound.
guys. So when I saw you smoking that cigarette outside that bar, that did it for me, and you still do it for me.
It did. God, it did. Jesus. Nothing like a hot woman with confidence smoking outside a bar. I'm telling you. Jesus.
Does she know you have something for Jen Cohen?
Yes.
Does she?
We didn't even talk about her last week because you didn't really do the shows last week. Do you want to? How's the update? Do you want to tell all the audience what's going on, or no?
Oh, about all my personal stuff?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Jen Cohen.
Well, because we didn't talk about it last week. We didn't talk about it last week.
Last week I was fantasizing about Jen Cohen.
Well, because we didn't talk about it last week because I had a buddy I had a guy sent me, a longtime listener who sent me pictures of her down on the sideline from the Husky game. Telling you, Southern California has done her wonders. But your wife, Kathy, how's Kathy doing? Okay,
she's doing fine. Yeah, she had a bit of a health scare. We were in Hood River. She's seeing a pain doctor there, and so yeah, we had an emergency thing happen. But she seems to be doing well now, and yeah, so all is good. But yeah, had something else to do on Friday as it related to that, and so I'm back now, and so she's feeling better. It's been a slow progress, but she's doing okay. But I appreciate your concern. If anybody's wondering where the heck I was, that's what was going on.
Yeah, no one was wondering, by the way.
I didn't think so, but I said in case. I didn't assume that was the case. Like, did the ratings dip or anything, or did they soar? What happened?
They really went down. They went down immediately. The ratings went in the toilet. That you weren't here. Well, you got no Seahawks game to react to. We got obviously the Cougs game. Someone on the chat had a great line about the Huskies. Did they regret going on the IMAX? Like, do you remember that? Because remember, it's Dan. Do you feel sorry for Husky fans that they showed up to the IMAX theater to see that debacle of a football game? Did anybody actually go to an IMAX theater to watch that? No way. No one actually went to the IMAX theater to go watch that game, did they?
I didn't. Did you see any of it? I didn't see any of it. I just kept getting. It seemed like it was like a 7-0, 14-0, 21-0, 28-0.
We watched a little bit of it, my buddy at old Kyle Ettman's tailgate. Shout out Kyle. He watches and listens. We watched a little bit of it there, but then once it was like over like right away, it's like okay, let's move on. Not paying attention anymore.
I wasn't. We had the Oregon game on. I miss Issaquah and the 3 TVs I had downstairs.
Well, you bring them back.
Yeah.
Don't you have YouTube TV?
I do have YouTube TV and that 4-in-1 thing.
Yeah, do the. But sometimes the only thing I don't like about it is they don't let you choose the games.
Yeah, so
they need to let you choose the games.
Yeah. I do have YouTube TV. Am I overpaying though? It's $72 a month. Does that sound right?
No, that's what you pay for YouTube TV. Yeah, you got it.
God, that just seems like a lot, doesn't it?
Well, no. I mean, think about what you were paying when you had Comcast. Paying $200 at least.
I don't know. You know what? And I know I'll be accused of being old, and it's accurate. But I miss cable. I miss cable. All this cutting the cord bullshit.
I gotcha.
Like every morning when I get up, I'm going, okay. Like in the Comcast days, I could just go to whatever 623, whatever ESPN was, and I knew
you memorize the numbers. That's
but
what
now
you
it's like I got to hit Fubo, and then I got to go over to the left and do the guide, and then go down the guide, and then there's Get Up, and there's the people yelling again. I just want to turn on the TV and not have to go through all that bullshit to find what I want. I'm getting better at it, but I'm still not. I don't like it, and I feel like even if I was 37 instead of 67, I'd be saying the same thing.
I got you.
It's annoying as hell. It
you
just
want
annoys
cable
the shit
back.
out of
I
me.
get it. I get it. The consumer wants everything in one spot, and that's what we used to have. We used to have everything in one spot. Like if anyone could ever just model cable and just bring it to streaming like YouTube and just have everything there, then I think it'd be great. But I understand what you're saying because
Golf Channel 625, Root Sports 627.
Yeah, I got you.
God, come on.
You want the simplicity of it. You miss that.
And I don't give a shit if there's cords going everywhere. I don't care about the appearance of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway. Yeah.
It's
so
just
$72 a month, that's not bad.
No, that's a good deal. Oh. Yeah. But that's $72
deal.
plus all the other stuff that you're paying for, right? Your Netflix,
I just got it to get the Cougs, CW. That's it.
Okay, then that's all you need.
Yeah.
So that's all you want, just the
Did CW in Washington, did it work okay this week? Because I know the last game that they did, people were upset about it.
I don't know. I went back and watched a little bit of it. It seemed okay. I mean, I don't know. It was big, bug-eyed Ted Robinson on the call with our guy Leaf. It seemed fine. I don't know.
Are his eyes more bug-eyed than Polanco?
That's a great debate. Who has more bug eyes, Polanco or Ted Robinson? I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure about that. I don't know. No idea.
Okay. Hey, CW though, I like what they do with that umpire cam.
I was just gonna say I don't like it.
Oh, you don't like it? Why?
I don't know. It doesn't really add anything to me.
Well, I think they're trying though.
Yeah, but the thing I love about now, I'm starting to like it, even though early on it's such a train wreck that I now love it. I never want them to get rid of Michael Mothershed because he's never right ever. Have you noticed that? He's never right about anything.
Well, I'm not either, but at least I can spit my words out occasionally. That poor guy, my God.
He can't talk. Shit. It looks like he's in a hostage room. Have you noticed how close he is to the camera? Like his face takes up the entire screen. But Jim, every time I watch a game and every time they say, all right, let's go to the replay booth. Michael Mothershed. Michael, what did you see there? And he gives an explanation, and he's never right. Like they did the whole thing.
Well, he was a Pac-12 ref. Come on.
Oh, I know he's terrible. But they got him. I wanted to go back and watch like the onside kick. I wanted to know what the explanation was, and then he's given his I don't think there's not enough here to overrule what's going on here. So I think this is going to be Cougar football. And then, like right when he says it, all right, after further review, player was blocking the other receiving team, thus making it Utah State ball. And like once you got the explanation of the rule, it was obvious that the Wazzu guy was blocking the other dude. And you're like, well, okay, well, they screwed that up. But Mothershed's looking at it like, I just think it's going to remain Cougar football. And then, like, no explanation because all the broadcasters were confused of, like, where they were going to actually get the ball back. Because I was like, why is Utah State lining up to where they recovered it? That's not it. There's no way that's the rule. You got to re-kick it. And Mothershed, he didn't have any explanation for it. But again, I think he's kind of a treasure, Jim. I don't want him to leave because he's so bad at it that I now enjoy when they send it back to him.
Well, and they don't go to him very often.
No. What do you think he makes for that?
Probably for good reason. I don't know what to say about him because he always seemed in control of the games as a referee. He's just not adapted to TV very well. I was surprised when we got the ball. Ryan Leaf called it correctly. When the Utah running back was reaching out for the yellow line. Yeah. And then our defensive guy, I forget who it was, just kind of took it away from him.
Okuda, yeah.
Yeah, and when they went to replay to review it, I thought, oh, that's still going to be Utah State ball. I think maybe the play was dead after he reached out and crossed the line, but lo and behold, come back and it's Cougar football.
It's great. Yeah. No, it was.
And that's the one thing when you go to a game, you have no idea what's going on, right? Did they show anything on the scoreboard or?
They don't show much. They don't show much on the replay. Can you hear through the broadcast? I'll shut up. Of we've got the leaf blower going on in the backyard. Can you hear that?
No.
Yeah. Kids, I asked the kids, hey, today you don't have school, right? It's Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to the men and women who serve our country. If you didn't serve our country, you and I couldn't be doing this show. So thank you to all the men and women.
Yeah, here.
And I said, hey, can you guys go rake the leaves today? You got just one thing. You don't have school. Can you just go do it? Just rake them up, blow them in a pile, pick them up. It'll take a half an hour. I mean, you would think I would have asked them can you guys go walk 15 miles with 300 pounds on your back and go get us some milk? I mean, I can't do that. I've got too much stuff today. It's a half an hour. Yeah. Go rake the leaves.
They're out there with the blower right now?
Oh, they're out there with the blower, but I told them, I said, you can use the blower, it's fine, but the blowers, you're going to kind of blow the leaves all over the place, instead of just take the old school rake. It's usually the best thing to do. Can you just go do it? It's just, the bitching and the moaning about it. And I know I did this as a kid too. I am not going to sit there and pretend like my parents told me to do stuff and I was like 100% on board, but good God.
Yeah.
Half an hour. That's all.
Well, I wouldn't know because I never asked my kids to do chores. So.
Oh, that's right. You were a chore.
And I was still making lunches for them when they were in Issaquah High School.
They never had a single chore in their life.
Nah, not really.
Okay.
They seemed like they were good kids. I think they did okay.
Okay, but maybe just something a little bit.
I'm with you though. I think blowers sometimes are overrated. You always think, it's going to be a simple job with a blower.
Yeah.
But I still like to sweep. Sweeping, sometimes you get the blower going. I know I could picture what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because with leaves, you're trying to blow them in one direction and then they go all over the place. Right. And then you got to kind of dial down the power of the blower.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, so hey, we missed you last week, so we got no Seahawks game to react to. One thing that I talked a lot about last week with like Rob Staten and like Danny Kelly. We'll talk about it today. I had it early this morning. I had to record our Ground Puck podcast with Tim and Curtis because they had stuff going on with the Kraken, so we did it early. But the Seahawks. Now you look at like the rest of the NFC West right now. Okay, they're 0-2 in the division. What's their record in conference play? I think in the conference they're 1-3, or they even win a game in the conference yet. God, I'm trying to pull it up what they are. Okay, so if they lose, we talked about this before. They're not going to be favored in the rest of their games, other than maybe the Bears game now.
No, the Jets game. The Jets game, maybe.
Maybe the Jets game, but you never know. You're traveling back there, but okay, I'll give you the Jets game. If they finish 6-11, okay, what's the point of not doing a rebuild in the offseason? Why would you bring it all back? Like why I would just asking this. Like I like DK Metcalf, and Geno Smith is not the problem. The problem is the offensive line. But I would just say, do you have the resources in a year, in one offseason, to fix that entire offensive line? They have no money next year. By the way, zero. They're already over the cap next year. They'll have to rework deals left and right. You got cap hits for Geno's 38, DK's 31 million. Tyler Lockett's got a cap hit extra $30 million.
Well, Tyler's not going to be playing next year.
Okay, so
that's just a guess.
Okay.
Don't you think it's a good guess though? Don't you think he's done?
Well, he's not going to play under that deal.
No.
He might play again, but he's not going to play under that contract. So if they are, how close are they to winning a championship? Because that's the ultimate goal, right? Is winning a Super Bowl? So how close are they?
Yes, I believe that is the ultimate goal.
Right? That's the goal. But how close are they?
Well, if you'd asked me a month ago or a month and a half ago when they were 3-0 and leading the division, as recently as 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, they were still leading the division, and you still look at it as being a muddled division, and you don't feel like Arizona's going to hang in there, but San Francisco's coming on, especially with McCaffrey coming back. And looking around the NFC, the Lions now are clearly a cut above.
That was a great game. It was a great game because there was so much shit going on, right? The interceptions and all that, and the field goals. That was great.
How do you win a game no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, even if it's Kansas? And Kansas City's been getting lucky as hell too. But 5 interceptions and you win that game. But no, that's a long-winded way of answering your question. They're a long ways away. But then how do you go about a major rebuild, or do that reimagining thing Jerry's talking about with the Mariners a few years ago?
I think that's what you do. It's more of just like this rebuild. It's just like reimagining the roster. I would just say, just all Seahawks fans just have to ask that question. Like, if they go the way that I think they're probably going to go, and maybe they get lucky and they start sneaking out some wins here, I don't know. But if they go 6-11, I would just say, like, how close are they? They're clearly not in the class of the Lions and the 49ers and some of these other teams. Arizona's starting to play a lot better football now.
Yeah, but couldn't you argue that you kind of have to give the first-year coach some time to do things his way? It's not going to happen in the first year, and he's a first-year head coach too. He's never done it before. So
I agree,
I
'cause
think,
it's
I think
kinda-
you need to factor that in. I do think it's a lack of talent, but I also think that, with him trying to, it seems like defensively that they're just the same as they've always been in the past, but I don't, maybe in time that they'll get the schemes down and they'll figure out what McDonald wants them to do, but I don't know.
Just playing
yeah.
devil's advocate here, though, for a second. Just playing the side of the to argue that maybe taking a step back and really trying to rebuild this thing would be the wise thing to do. If you go into the offseason, they're going to have to make a decision on DK Metcalf. Regardless of what people want to tell you in this town, that there was never any serious offers and they never thought about trading him and all that kind of BS. They're going to have to make a decision in the offseason of whether they're going to pay him or trade him. That's it. There is going to be a decision to make on that guy.
The problem, Puck, in the NFL, though, like if you were to trade DK Metcalf, what would you get? I don't think anybody would be happy with the return. It always seems like the returns for star players, isn't that great typically.
I don't know. I mean,
you get a first rounder for him?
I think so. I disagree. I think it'd be a pretty good. I think you'd get a pretty good haul for him.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, the Cowboys sent a 4th round pick for a guy I'd never heard of before. I don't know. I think. But
like Devontae Adams, was he? Did the Raiders give up all that much? Did the Jets? I mean, I don't know. I just wonder. I appreciate what you're saying about a rebuild, and I think Rob talks about that too. Is like the worst place you want to be is in the middle, and that's where they've been for quite a while now. I'd rather see the Seahawks go. What are they right now? 4-5, and if we don't think they're going to contend for a Super Bowl, then go ahead and lose the rest. Be better than going 6.
Well, they're not gonna contend for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it'd be better for them to go,
of course,
4-13 than
6-11. 100% it would be. I mean, it really would. The best thing for them right now, because there's no one that thinks they're a Super Bowl contending team. I want to see how the next 2 weeks shake out. If the next 2 weeks go the way that I think it's going to happen, then yeah, it would be better for them, honestly, and it sucks, and I know it's the most anti-fan thing to say, but the best thing for them would be to, if they don't pull out wins against the Niners and the Cardinals, okay, then the division, the division's already most likely gone, I guess in theory you still have a shot at it. But if you drop the next 2 games, then it's really done. Then honestly, the best case for them would be to lose every one of their games so they can somehow get a high draft pick.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I know it sucks to say that, and it's not what you want to admit, but it's what everybody thinks. It's what a lot of people think, and would be the best case scenario for them. Because as Rob has pointed out, Rob Staten, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, he joins us every Wednesday. Is you just don't want to be in the middle, like 7-10, 8-9. That's God. You just don't want to be there.
Even 9-8's no good.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. But, okay, so what are you going to do next Monday if they win at San Francisco?
Well, then
never mind what I said last Monday.
Then no, because I'm not saying that they're going to lose every game. I'm just, you have to, the idea of a rebuild. If they go 6-11 or 4-13 or 5-12, that's got to be on the table. It has to be. Because they're no closer to winning a championship. It's okay to say that. Like, I don't think Geno Smith's been the problem, but he's 35 years old. What he's going to want to get paid a lot of money, like a lot. Now, the thing that works in his disadvantage is that there wasn't a market for him the last time. There wasn't a huge market. His age, I think, plays a huge factor in it. I mean, he's 30. Well, he'll be 36. Teams aren't just going to hand out a ton of money to him. They won't. So I don't think the market's going to be great for Geno Smith. And so he'll be competing, the Seahawks are competing really against no one for his services, right? Because anyone who's kind of close to a championship, they have the quarterback. It's not like they're one.
Well, he's still got a year left on his contract, doesn't he?
Well, I know, but they have to rework it. They're not going to have a cap hit next year of $38 million for him. You can't.
Okay, if you had to bet right now, would you bet that Geno Smith will be the starting quarterback for the Seahawks next year?
If I had a bet right now,
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I would too.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Because I don't think it's Howell's the guy, even though that you want Howell to be the guy. I don't think Sam Howell's the guy. Anyone that's watched training camp just, I don't have any glowing remarks about Sam Howell, but who knows? Maybe Sam Howell gets an opportunity to play and it looks good. Maybe at the end of the year they give him a start. I hope they don't, McDonald's. Don't do that, you son of a bitch. Don't give him some charity start at the end of the year.
That's another reason why I wouldn't mind seeing them lose out, because at some point they'd go, well, we got to see what we have in the backup.
Let's see what Howell can do. Now, I don't need that. I don't need to see what Howell can do.
But you can't fairly judge Geno this year. You just can't.
Why? Because of the offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's my point. How do you replace 3/5 of your offensive line? You're not going to do it through the draft, so you have to do it through free agency. Well, if they have no money to spend, how are they going to do that? Like you've got to rob it somewhere.
God,
you can't pay everyone.
They're not great at drafting these guys either.
No, they're not.
The latest example, Haynes, wasn't he a third rounder or fourth?
It was a third round pick now. But
you expect a third round lineman to be in the mix as a starter, or at least a part-time starter, and he can't even. I mean, that Tubba Goo guy. Bradford. He can't replace him.
Yeah. No, listen, I think Cross is a good left tackle. Abe Lucas was having a good career until, the injury kind of knocked him out. Now, if he comes back against the Niners and he recovers from this knee injury, all right, you feel better about that. But there's just something that tells me I don't want to be half glass empty here. I don't feel good about Abe Lucas. It's just that's an injury. He's been out for so long. Just feels like it's something he's going to have to deal with, for the rest of his career. That's going to be a problem for him.
He's not a long-term answer. He's not even a short-term answer. And he's a Coug. We love him, but he doesn't look like he's going to be the solution there at right tackle.
Just because of injury?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that he's okay, that he makes a recovery, and that he's when he comes back he's good. But I'm with you. I would say I don't think you can depend on him.
No.
You can't depend on him until he actually goes out there. So, okay, 3/5, 4/5 of your offensive line. The quickest way to fix it's through free agency. You can go look at the free agent class out there who's going to be there in 2025. But, again,
what do they have? It's Connor what? Well, Connor Williams, the center?
Connor Williams is the center.
Yeah. Okay. You still have hope for him, don't you?
I don't. I have zero hope.
Zero?
No.
Because his subpar play, might be attributable to the injury that he might have come back too soon, and next year he might be a hell of a lot better.
Maybe, but he's only. I believe he's only on a 1-year deal.
It's just 1 year. Yeah.
So.
No,
this is the money next year cap hit wise. These are the contracts. What I'm telling you, they don't have a lot of money to spend. $38 million for Geno, $31 for DK, $30 for Lockett. I think I said this already, but Leonard Williams making $29 million. Draymond Jones, who there's just no way he can play next year at $25 million. Nwosu is for as productive as Nwosu has been, and he has been, $21 million for a guy who can't be on the field because he's always injured.
Yeah,
and
not his fault, but you're right about that.
Okay, and then Noah Fant, who can't stay healthy, $13 million for Noah Fant.
Yeah, I think more was expected from him. In the Russell Wilson deal.
Just a little bit. And then meanwhile, speaking of Russell Wilson, I'm telling you, he's 100% back. I watched his, I don't know if you caught the ESPN Sunday, pregame show, his interview with Hannah Storm.
It was on in the background.
100% back, man. All of it. A little bit of cliche was in there. The 100%, you got to believe in yourself. Iron sharpens iron, blah, blah, blah. He's just back. And he's playing great football, man. He is. He made some throws yesterday, including what turned out to be the game winner. He had a classic Wilson scramble yesterday, running around making plays. He looks just like he did in Seattle. The offense looks the same. Arthur Smith, the OC, talked about how they've gone back to that offensive system he ran in Seattle. And have just implemented it here with him. They run the ball well. Pickens has been a stud. Their defense is playing great. Hell, I flip on the tube this morning, the yelling, screaming shows, and they're talking about Pittsburgh being a Super Bowl contender.
I saw that. And Rex Ryan called him a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Hall of Famer. Is
he a Hall of Fame quarterback? I suppose he's going to get some votes. I don't think he's, first ballot.
I think how this season goes and how he changes his arc, right? There's people that wrote him off. I wrote him off. I thought he'd never start again. I mean,
You're right though. That game-winning touchdown pass.
Oh,
he threw that off his back foot and it was perfect.
Beautiful. He's just
3rd and 9.
He said something in his interview with Hannah Storm that
he said something sincere.
Well, yeah,
that couldn't have happened. Was he genuine at all?
Hold on. He talked about how everyone thinks it's phony, like his positivity. Like, do you think it's phony?
You know why everyone does? Because it is. But go ahead.
Okay. See, I don't think it is, but I understand why. I understand why you feel that way, and others do. I genuinely believe I just think he's like that. Whether it comes across as phony or not genuine, I mean, that's just how people interpret things. But I do believe he's like that. That he's just that guy does not. He refuses to let anything drag him down, and I believe he's that positive. And
are you happy for him?
I am, yeah, I am. I know others aren't. I know others feel he's a bad guy and he treats people awful. And I'll just say this: I don't, and that may be true. Maybe he treated people awful in the organization. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that, so I can't comment on that. I don't know. I don't know those people he allegedly treated bad in the organization, so it would be unfair for me to sit there and say, "Oh, he's a bad guy," because so and so said he's a bad guy. I don't know if.
Well, you've said unfair things in the past about other people, haven't you?
Who? Name them.
I don't know. There's too many to list.
They're all warranted.
Pretty rich coming from me. I'm not happy for Russ.
Okay.
I'm not.
Why?
I got sick of his act here in Seattle. I got so sick of it. And I don't know. It probably isn't cool for me to wish, another man's pain, but I don't want to see him do well.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I had the Commanders given 2 yesterday, so I didn't appreciate that.
Folks, whether you're watching on YouTube or X or listening on the Puck Sports mobile app, thank you. That's the root of the problem. It's not that you dislike him; it's that you had the Commanders in 2.5.
Yeah, I did. I also had the Jets against the Steelers when Russell made his first start.
Yeah. So what is it about what got old for you when he was here?
Just the phoniness.
Okay.
The robotic nature of him.
Okay.
And really more than that, I can't stand people who get full of themselves. And he was the classic I'm full of myself guy, and he's the classic guy that changed from whoever he was in college, and he got the whole fame thing got to him, and it just sickened me after a while. And I don't want him to do well. And I'm just being honest. That's not cool. I should, take the higher road, be a bigger man, all that bullshit.
Do you think there's a chance he's changed?
Maybe he got humbled when he was in Denver, but I doubt it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I doubt it.
What about the player on the field? Can fans remove the stuff off the field, like the music videos, the grandstanding, the look at me is what, because I understand how that could bother people. And I'm not saying it didn't bother me. I'm just saying that's a part of it. Can you remove that and be happy for the player on the field?
No, I can't. I can't. I can't, but you're right. What we're seeing on the field, if you knew nothing about Russell Wilson and you watched him the 3 games that he's played for the Steelers, you're going, hey, that guy's a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. And he looks nothing like he did. Now, last year he was a little better, but that first year in Denver, we know what that year was like.
It was awful.
And maybe it had more to do with Hackett, his coach, than Russell losing his skills. But it could be, and it will be, in a lot of people's eyes, a great comeback story by a once great player who fell on hard times.
Right.
We all like stories of adversity and all that, but I don't know. I'm not buying into it. I do give Mike Tomlin one hell of a lot of credit because, Justin Fields was the guy that you thought, well, okay, he's younger, talented. Maybe they can get more out of him. You don't know what his ceiling is. You know what you have in Wilson, probably past his prime. And yet Mike Tomlin went to the bullpen and got Russell Wilson out there. And look at the Steelers now. They got the yelling shows, like you said, talking about them being Super Bowl contenders.
And he took a lot of heat for it, right? He took a lot of heat for making that move. Took a lot of heat from people. From like, why are you making a quarterback change? Your offensive line's not great. He's younger, he gives you a little bit more dynamic, a playmaking ability.
Yeah.
Why would you make that move? And Tomlin was just like, we need more out of the passing game, and he's clearly got more out of the passing game. I mean, Russell Wilson, does the NFL do a comeback player of the year? Oh, I'm going to assume they do. He's in line to probably win that.
Oh,
if he keeps playing this way.
One of the leading candidates for sure. But, yeah, I heard a guy yesterday on ESPN radio talking about he thinks the Steelers are going to win that division. And they're in the division with who? Help me. The Ravens, right?
Ravens, who are the number one team, yeah.
Okay, so what – can you imagine? Are they going to actually – they play the Ravens this week. So if they beat the Ravens and Mike Tomlin, if he's not coach of the year –
he's a good one.
Yeah. You see that graphic on the Yelling Show today? 17 consecutive winning seasons? Come on. Who does that? And yet I think he was on the hot seat a little bit because they were saying the same stuff about him in Pittsburgh that we were saying in Seattle, that Pete Carroll's a really good coach, but it just might be time for a change to get us a little farther, because I don't think Pittsburgh's been in the Super Bowl for quite a while now.
They probably haven't been there since Roethlisberger, I think, right? Am I missing a year after that? Do you like this? Give me the Steelers plus 3.5 at home against the Ravens. God, a home team playing that well.
That'd be just my luck. That'd be just my luck if I thought, well, okay, I'll bet on Russell this week, and then he'll turn into shit again.
I'm surprised the Niners are only 6.5-point favorites at home against Seattle.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you when you were talking about this total rebuild that they need to make.
I don't get that.
A week from now, we could be talking about, hey, if they can beat the 49ers in Santa Clara, all things are back on the table again.
Okay, do you think they can beat them?
No, but Puck, how many 6.5-point underdogs win games?
It
happens.
That's a Niners team that rushed for 230 yards against you in Seattle, and they didn't have Christian McCaffrey. Now he's back.
Okay, but why is it just 6.5?
I don't know.
Shouldn't it be like 11 or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I would go with. Did you see, speaking of the NFL, by the way, and then the Cardinals are playing great. Kyler Murray looks awesome. He was 22 of 24 yesterday. They hammered the Jets, so the Jets are cooked. The Cardinals look freaking awesome. Did you see the Micah Parsons soundbite?
I did, where he basically said he didn't care about his head coach.
This is unbelievable. A reporter asked him, we're going to play it for you. The reporter asked him afterwards about the contract situation and what Micah Parsons feels about the uncertainty surrounding Mike McCarthy.
Mike's on the final year of his contract, so outside there's of course going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
That's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But the guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out. Because that's what I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
Have you ever heard a player talk about their head coach like that? Just absolutely throw their coach under the fucking bus like that? Unbelievable.
You imagine McCarthy hearing that, which he already has, I'm sure.
Of course.
And thought to himself, Jesus Christ, I put in 16-hour days and he's questioning my work ethic.
Think about the amount of time. I think players put in a hell of an amount of time as well. But to sit there, and you can have your opinion on Mike McCarthy all you want, to sit there and say that Mike McCarthy doesn't put any work in, you're right, 16, 17-hour days. These guys grind at this job. Missing family time, missing kids' sporting events. Their wife is, drunk on Pinot Gris and Xanax. My God. They miss everything. I just,
Well, it's probably good to miss that part, though, isn't it?
What? Your
Like
wife's
if
on
McCarthy's wife is getting drunk and taking Xanax.
Well, it might be entertaining. I might actually make for a fun night at the McCarthy household. So I mean, he'll be gone because he's entering the last year, and then I just can't wait. I cannot wait for the Deion Sanders hype train. I can't wait for it. There's part of me as an NFL fan that wants to see it. I just want to see Deion in Dallas now.
You think he'd be the leading candidate?
I think he'll be a prominent name that will be thrown out. You're already going to start to hear it. Yeah, I mean, he played there. He's got a great relationship with them. What's their record right now? I don't know if they can tank enough games. They can. They're 3-6. They could lose. Let's see. What is NFL tankathon? Where do they have the Cowboys right now in the NFL draft order? Because do you do a package deal with Shedeur Sanders? They are the 11th. They have the 11th pick right now. They keep losing. I mean, they'll find themselves top 5 with a shot to take them, even though they gave all that money to Dak Prescott. It would be entertaining as hell.
They need to fire him today. And don't you think? I mean, he's clearly lost that team. And I say that because I had the Cowboys in 7.5 yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
You're probably thinking, why in the world would you do that? Or maybe you're thinking, oh, God, you always pick the wrong team. So maybe you're not thinking that.
Sure.
But Cooper, remember when I was on Cooper Rush? I thought, God, Cooper Rush, he was 5-1 as a starter, replacing Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he looked good.
Well, I assume he looked bad because I didn't see much of the game, but I was all over Cooper Rush. I thought, God, the Cowboys are going to be better with him at quarterback. And since they weren't, and in fact were even worse, that tells me that McCarthy he's not the guy. And it's pretty evident.
It's clearly he's not.
Why would you let him continue and finish the season at this point?
I don't know. Out of respect for him, I don't know. It can't get much worse. I don't think he's ever. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he's ever fired a coach in season like that. Maybe I don't think so. So maybe
but this would be a good first time.
I
got nothing against Mike McCarthy.
No,
I'm just saying that based on.
But why?
It seems to me, based on Parsons' comments too, that other guys in that locker room feel the same way.
My point is, where's the owner right now to come out and tell Micah Parsons to shut up?
Well, maybe he will.
You don't get to talk. Does he? I mean, I don't know if he does his radio show today or tomorrow at the.
It's tomorrow. I think
down.
it's Tuesdays.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You can't talk like that. You can't talk like that about your head coach in public. I mean, it's just. It's so
well, they should fine him.
Sure. Yeah, find them all you want. The other big news of the weekend, I want to get to it, is that did you catch the Holy War, Utah and BYU at all?
Yeah, and I hate to always put things in gambling terms, but that's pretty much my life.
That's okay.
I had Utah on the money line with the Cougs in a 2-team parlay. And I had $40 on it. It would have paid like 160. And I was looking at the little, ESPN play-by-play. And when Utah stopped them, they flipped the ball over to Utah instead of BYU. And I thought, God, there's less than a minute. They're going to take a knee and the game will be over. And then all of a sudden I look back, 22-21 final, BYU wins. I mean,
so you've seen the last play now. Everyone's probably seen it. Everyone's got the slow down, up close, zooming in on the play. So they sacked the kid at the 1. Utah's going nuts. They're going to win the game. It's a great rivalry between those two schools. They haven't played since 2010-9 when they were in the Mountain West together. And the crowd's going nuts, and then there's a late flag thrown. And then I didn't see the play. I just read. The first thing I saw when we were over in Pullman was I just saw Mark Harlan's response. He's the athletic director at Utah. He's like, we were excited about joining the Big 12, but we're not excited anymore. F off, and we're going to be talking to the commissioner. And my first thought was, Teresa Gould, get on the phone right now with Harlan and the University of Utah, even though Canzano's always told me that the reason they don't have a grant of rights deal with the Big 12, right? They can leave anytime. There is no exit penalty for Utah, for people that don't know that.
Well, plus Utah didn't want to leave either, did they?
Well, I mean, they did, so they left.
No, I know they did, but I think they were one of the more reluctant schools to leave.
Maybe, but just for college fans out there, Utah does, if they want to leave, there is no exit fee for them. They negotiated it. Now, Canzano's told me that the reason they did that was because they're holding out hope for the Big Ten. So, but hey, pick up the phone, Gould. That was my first thought. Call them up right now and be like, what do you want? What can we get you? Because they need one more team. Bring them home.
We'll give you a double share.
You can have it all.
Yeah.
Come on home, Utah. You like it. You'll like it more here. What great rivalries you'll have with Colorado State, Boise
Utah
State. Utah State. Come on, it'd be great. But this is the play. So like I said, I did not see the play. I didn't hear anything about it until the day after, where other than him just, ranting about how it's the worst call in the world and that Mark Harlan's like, we got robbed. The game, quote, was stolen from us because they called a holding penalty. So here's the penalty. And you'll see it right at the top as we're playing this on the stream. You'll see it at the top, the Utah defender grabbing the jersey of the wide receiver. That's a clear penalty. That's a penalty. Like, what is he complaining about? He grabs his jersey.
He must have felt like, because you were saying it was a late flag.
I don't know how late it was. I think it was deemed late because the place was going nuts. And so I think maybe they didn't see it right away. But I don't know, man. I mean, that official is watching that play. He's not watching the sack. That's a hold. It just is. As much as I want to be like mad and be like BYU stole one and Brett Yormark is trying to steal a victory for BYU because he needs an undefeated team. I mean, maybe there were other plays during the game. We got Canzano's coming on tomorrow. Maybe he'll say, maybe there's some other calls during the game, but that play in particular, it's terrible to lose that way. And maybe you would say you eat your whistle, right? Teams always, officials, you always eat your whistle at the end of the game. Maybe they should have done that, but there is no argument. I mean, he grabbed his jersey there, right?
Yeah, pretty obvious looking at the replay that there was a penalty there. But yeah, I appreciated the AD getting up there to the podium though and just popping off like that because he was
awesome.
He was a poor loser, is what he was, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
No, I'm with you though. I mean, if whatever Utah wants,
give them.
Come on back. Come on back. So many of those teams want to come back already. I bet you those kids, when they're flying back from Happy Valley, the Huskies, I mean, nobody wants to be doing that.
Yeah.
It's just too far. And so I think they probably have second thoughts on everything that's happening right now.
I agree. I know I'm going to get to this with Hey, What the Puck, but, the news that came out on Friday, I think it was the Friday afternoon, Brian Wheeler, before you go, your thoughts on Brian Wheeler. He passed away at the age of 62. Brian had been a terrific broadcaster. Brian had battled a lot of kind of demons in his life and had poor health. But, God, he was a great broadcaster. I'll have more on it later. He was a great friend, great advocate for me, especially when I was young in my career. And I know you crossed paths with Wheels and, all the signature calls that he had when he was with the Blazers. Tough job to take over, for Sean Lee, who was an absolute legend down there. And he did a great job at it. And it was just that hit me pretty hard, probably hit a lot of people hard that knew Brian. And to get that news is never fun.
No, I remember when Brian came to town from Chicago and was working at KJR. What was his show? Was it Wheels at Work or was it
Wheels at Work or Wheels After Work or something like that?
Yeah. No, and so I thought, God, this guy, you're right. He's a terrific broadcaster. I wasn't aware of his play-by-play skills.
Yeah.
And then he ended up going to Sacramento for a while.
Yeah.
And then ended up at Portland, and I thought, God, he's going to be the play-by-play guy. And you're right. When you replace a legend, you want to be the second guy after the guy who replaces the legend. Right. And yet he took over and did a terrific job. He did the boom shakalaka thing. And I was really saddened to hear that news. You're right. We crossed paths in Seattle, and what I knew of Brian Wheeler was he was a really good guy too.
Yeah. Yeah, gone too soon. He passed away of battling a long illness, 62 years of age. And we'll have more on that coming up with Hey, What the Puck. All right, good to have you back. Jim's with us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, all brought to you by Clean Streak Professional Window and Exterior Cleaning Services. Also, Bright Owl Lighting, professional Christmas lighting expert installers. Go to brightowllighting.com if you would like to have someone set up your Christmas lights for you. It's on the peninsula, so if you're on the peninsula, that's where you can get it done. All right, Jimbo, we'll talk to you tomorrow for the podcast for the old Crimson. And
All
then,
right, we're going to
we'll
wait for the rankings to come out?
Probably not. I've given up hope.
Do you think our schedule hurts us a little bit?
Do you think?
Yeah. I don't think the committee cares too much for our schedule.
No, it's rightfully so. I get it. All right, we'll see you Wednesday.
Okay, man. Go Cougs.
Yeah, go Cougs. There he is. Jim Morgan every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Big thanks to Brian, Clean Streak, a professional window exterior cleaning service, also Bright Owl Lighting, professional Christmas lighting expert installers. All right, I mentioned this before a little bit there with Jim. I caught up with the boys for the Ground Puck Podcast. We do it every Monday, recapping the Seahawks with Tim Booth of the Seattle Times and Curtis Crabtree of Fox 13. We recorded it early this morning because those guys, they've got other stuff going on. They had crack in practice they needed to get to, so they said, hey, can we do it early? I said, you know what? Guarantee you we can. So we talked a lot about what Jim and I talked about, just about the rebuild. What does this team do, this organization do, if they end up going 6-11? What does their offseason look like? Do they bring back DK Metcalf? Do they have to make a tough decision with DK? Whether you like it or not, I just think it needs to be brought up. And then what do they do with Geno Smith, and how close are they to getting back and being truly a Super Bowl contending team? Our conversation this morning, the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast, all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Hi, welcome in. It's the Ground Puck Podcast. Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13, Tim Booth, Seattle Times, all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Locally owned and operated. Two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. They've been pouring the best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie Zaffa IPA, host of their favorite brews all around. Tap room is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. All right, well, how did everyone spend their bye week, huh? Everyone good? You get out and experience something fun? Curtis, what'd you do?
Yeah, I actually did an impromptu quick trip down to Dallas to go catch a Linkin Park concert since they're back and have a new lead singer and everything, and it was pretty cool. Never had a chance to see them before with Chester Bennington, and so I flew down and saw them now with Emily Armstrong at the Rangers ballpark, and yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. Got around to golfing down there, went and saw Dealey Plaza, and did a little quick trip and came on back. So yeah, it was a good little weekend.
Well, it's just great not to have kids, Tim. Just not have a family. All right. And again, I think I just never pictured you for a Linkin Park fan. I just it just doesn't. I don't see it, but okay, I love it.
Yeah,
good for you.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite band through high school and all the way on up. So yeah, it's a good chance to go see him for sure.
Tim, you sounds like you did damage to your liver in Missoula, Montana.
Yeah, just a little bit. Still trying to fully recover from that experience. But see, mine was speaking of bands, the only time I'd ever been to Missoula before was for 2 Pearl Jam concerts. So I decided that I needed to actually go take in a football game in the land of Ryan Divish, and so flew over with some friends and went to the Montana UC Davis game, which kicked off at a lovely time of 8:20 p.m. Mountain Time on Saturday night. So it was nice and chilly by the time that game wrapped up. But then it was also this is what my excuse has been. It was also a scouting trip because next year the mighty Wildcats of Central Washington open the season against the Grizzlies of Montana. So I'm thinking my son and I might make the road trip over next year for that game. So it was a scouting trip.
Yeah, it's a great little football stadium.
It's great. It's
awesome.
Fantastic. We were in our good friend Ryan Divish got us tickets, obviously, and we were in the last row in the end zone, and it was still it was a great seat. It was a fantastic seat to try and watch the game from. So it was
really hooked you up there, huh? It really sounds like Divish has got a lot of pull back at the school that he used to be at, huh?
Going to Missoula with Ryan Divish is an experience because he literally knows everybody. He honestly could probably run for governor of Montana with the amount of people and the handshakes, the glad handing, the drinks he was being bought for people. It was, it's an experience to go to anywhere in Montana, but Missoula specifically with our friend Mr. Divish.
Did you go to Bodegas?
We did not go to Bodegas. We went to Reds. We spent basically the entire night at Reds.
Okay. You never made it to the Ox? He didn't take you there?
No, we tried to go to the Mo Club, but it was packed. And so, and some of those guys were there on Friday, so they may have hit a couple of those places on Friday before I got there. So,
well, there we go. No Seahawks game to break down of what happened here. This past weekend, obviously, they had a bye. They'll get set to take on the 49ers. And, hey, look who's back. Christian McCaffrey's back just in time for the Seahawks and 49ers coming up this week. I think we just opened up the show this week just 9 games, I guess, is the halfway point, really, of the season. And Tim, I'll start with you. Just kind of a state of where the Seahawks are at right now. They're 4-5. They're 0-2 in the division. They're 1-4 in conference play. Through 9 games, the Seahawks are who are they?
They are a team that is still trying to figure out, I think, who they are. They're a team who I think gave a certain amount of not false hope, but just false impression of who they were by starting 3-0, which just ended up being the fortunate way the schedule was set up that allowed them to start that way. I think they're a team that when they avoid the self-inflicted mistakes, they can beat quality opponents like we saw with, the win over Atlanta, but they haven't yet proven themselves against any good competition this year, and that's shown the sort of the thin line that they're walking between being a team that can be successful and a team that, right now is 4-5 and in last place in the NFC West. Obviously we've talked ad nauseum about the deficiencies that they have. But it kind of, you have rebuild up there on your little side thing about, the menu about a question there. And it does kind of feel like they're in this tenuous sort of state of, is the season going to end up being, 6-11 and they do need to go into a rebuild, or is this season going to end up being, 9-8 and they, there's a chance that they're in the race for a playoff spot until the last week of the season. I don't know which way I would lean right now. I think maybe I'd lean a little bit more toward the 6-11 spot. So based on what we've seen and what their schedule is upcoming. So they're just kind of like in this sort of limbo right now, I guess is maybe the best way to say it, of not sure which way they're going to end up going the rest of the season. And that's based off, those moments of good play and those moments of massive inconsistency we've seen so far.
Curtis, same question for you.
Yeah, I think they're a pretty good football team everywhere that isn't the line of scrimmage. And they've got a lot of talent on the roster. They do. But that line of scrimmage, at times on both sides of the football has really hurt them this year. They've gotten the defensive line cleaned up a little bit more with a couple guys back healthy, making a trade to add a guy in there in Roy Robertson Harris. But, the offensive line is just the most obvious critical focal point of this team, and there's no escaping it. And if it was better, there's a pretty high ceiling for this roster, and maybe we see some changes as to what they're going to try to do there this week. I don't know. We'll have to see when they get back to work here exactly what's going to happen up front, and if they're going to make any personnel changes. If Abe Lucas's eventual return, assuming that happens, helps to get things smoothed out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they really do have talent at every part of this roster except for the line of scrimmage. But with the offense, and even there's some talent there. I mean, like Charles Cross, first round pick. Connor Williams has been a borderline Pro Bowler before. They've got some guys up there, that have done some things in the league and everything. But collectively right now, it's just the one thing that's really significantly holding them back.
Yeah, McDonald talked, last week just about. I think the quote was, Curtis, everything is on the table. How they're going to evaluate this football team and leading up to their game with San Francisco. What did you read into that when he was like, everything is on the table? And if everything is on the table, what changes could they make? Let's say, and let's stick with the offensive line first and foremost.
Well, the obvious one is Abe Lucas's return to the lineup at right tackle. That's, one that you would probably expect to see happen, assuming he's healthy enough to play here at some point in the coming short-term future. You could try to make a change at right guard. In a couple different ways you could try it. The just moving a right guard position spot, you could, if you feel like you want to try Jason Peters there, you could give him a chance at that spot off the practice squad. McClendon Curtis, same thing. You could give him a chance at guard, even though he's been more of a tackle for them with what they've done before. You could try that. The other, move that requires two moves would be to bump Connor Williams there, given his history of playing guard, and then put Olu Oluwatimi at center and have him and Jalen Sundell handle a center spot with Connor Williams playing guard. That would be I think the two different ways you could try to adjust the right guard position. I would tend to think it's easier to make one swap than two, so I would tend to lean towards a Jason Peters and McClendon Curtis getting a chance there before I would think they would do the double swap to kind of try to find things to make it work. But coming off the bye, maybe they're able to give a little bit of a chance lead time to give that a run and do it the other way if they feel like that's their best option. We'll see. So those would be the ways I think you would do. I don't think you mess with Laken Tomlinson on the other side. He's not been, super high end, but I don't think he's been the biggest problem for them either. I think it's that right side of the offensive line that's truly the thing that's really, really holding them back.
And Tim, I mean, we're sitting here, going into week 10, week 11 of the season, and you're talking about, making some pretty drastic offensive line changes. I don't care who you are. You start getting into these discussions after 9 games into the season. Mm-hmm. I mean, most everybody's going to know that whatever changes they make, they're probably not going to work because these are changes and additions and things you need to do in the offseason, not 9 games into the year.
Yeah. Although, I mean, the Abe Lucas, opportunity for him to come back. I mean, obviously it's been based around injury versus, personnel decisions that you had in the off season. So that's the one that you look at and go, okay, this guy, when he was healthy, was a dude. Like he played pretty dang well at that spot. And if you can get him back, maybe not right away to the level that he was, early, that first year of his career, you might be able to shore up one of your biggest deficiencies. And the piece with that is that if you're able to solidify that, if Abe is able to come in and not necessarily maybe lock down the spot, but be a significant upgrade from what you've had there, then you don't have to do things like have a tight end stay in and chip on, an edge rusher coming in, or you don't have to align your protection so that your running back that is staying in to help block has to worry about the right tackle. He might be able to help inside if, on the right guard, if Anthony Bradford is still there, or if Jason Peters step in, or whoever is holding out a spot. The trickle down effect might actually end up helping them in pass protection, maybe specifically, with some of the issues that they've had allowing the rush to get there and affect Geno in the passing game. So, but again, that's all wait and see because, we haven't seen Abe Lucas out there in quite a long time. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like when he gets there.
Let's go there. You brought up the dreaded R word, and that R word is rebuild. I mean, they haven't had to do anything, in terms of a rebuild, right, Tim, since 2010, right? The first year that Carroll and Schneider took this squad over. They are 4-5. I don't know what they're closer to. To me, I would agree with you. They're closer to probably going 6-11. I think we did this exercise last week. I don't want to. If we did, I apologize. All right, it's been a long week and I'm sick. But they're not going to, most likely won't be favored in the remaining games that they have. I mean, maybe the Bears game now because they're kind of falling apart. And who knew the Bears would fall apart with a bad offensive coordinator? Shocker. But, they're going to be underdogs in most all of their games. So, 6-11 seems probably more likely than not. The last time they were this bad, you got to go back to the last year they were Jim Moore when they were 5-11. If they my point has been this, Tim, if they don't find a way to get out a win here, especially in the next 3, right? And you got Niners, Cardinals, Jets, and I know how the Jets are playing, but you got to go back there. I guess I just ask, why would you not want to start going down that road of rebuilding? Because I would just ask anyone who was a staunch Seahawks supporter or would defend against the idea of it, Tim, would be how close are they? I I mean, truly, how close are they to winning a championship? Because that's the ultimate goal, for most teams. But for this team, because they've set the bar so high for themselves, is to win a championship. So how much closer would they be to that in the offseason?
Well, I think, I guess I'll take your question this way. Like, if they go 0-3 in these next 3, then yeah, I mean, your season is essentially shot at that point, especially with who you have over the final, month of the season. It's hard, I think, to do necessarily a rebuild during the season. There's certain spots that I think they could start moving in some younger guys if that was the route that they ended up wanting to go, and give them a little bit more run, a little bit more playing time. But again, this isn't like this is the thing with a 53-man, roster or whatever, the 46 that you have active on game days. It's not like college. You can't just all of a sudden throw a whole ton of freshmen in there and give them their 4 games to avoid or to keep their red shirt so that they, have their eligibility and get their experience. Like, you still have to roll out your guys, you still have to roll out there Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love and Ernest Jones and all those guys, because you don't have that amount of depth. So, but the idea of a rebuild, I think, to Curtis's point, it's the line of scrimmage. Like, you rebuild the line of scrimmage. It's not so much that you have to rebuild the skill positions around them. It's not so much you have to rebuild a whole side of the ball. It's the line of scrimmage that you would have to rebuild. And whether they end up 6-11 or 9-8 or whatever the final number is this year, you're probably going to have to rebuild the line of scrimmage no matter what. This offseason, I think maybe that's the biggest thing we've learned in this first year under Mike Macdonald is it still revolves around the line of scrimmage. Pete Carroll could be the coach. Tom Cable could be the offensive line coach.
Yes, bring him back.
Scott Huff could be the offensive line coach. Whoever is in that position, whoever is running this team, it still revolves around the line of scrimmage, and that's where, when we talk about rebuild, everything else is probably just moving a little chess piece here or there to change around a position or to reallocate funds or whatever. With the rest of the team, the line of scrimmage is the place where I think when we're talking rebuild, that's where it's going to be.
And Curtis, I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, really, they, you look at the other pieces on the football team, and they are, for all intents and purposes, a good team. I mean, they've got skill position players that the other teams would envy, but it does start with that offensive line. But how quickly, I guess I'd ask you, can you turn around that offensive line to get you back to championship, expectations? And can you do so with the amount of money that you've got locked up in guys next season? You don't have a lot of money already. And I know you can manipulate the salary cap and do a bunch of different things and all that. But, they need at least, I mean, depending on where Lucas is, let's just say Lucas is healthy. You're talking 3/5 of your offensive line need to be upgraded. Can you do that in one off season?
You can do a chunk of that in one off season, but you do have to, use the resources to do it. And I guess my take on it would be define rebuild. Like, to what extent are we talking here? Because I think the idea of like tanking has become somewhat romanticized and wanting to do that. And in the NFL, that can lead to a very long stint in the basement of the league. I mean, look at the teams who are the worst in the league right now and think of how long that they've been in the bottom third of the league. The Giants, Jaguars, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Dolphins, Jets. Those are all teams that have been like perennially in the top 10 of the draft because they've, tried to find it and rebuild by being in the top 10, and they haven't been able to do it because there's so many places on a roster you have to fill out to an adequate level to be able to build a team that's any good. So, I don't think it's a team you need to strip down to the studs and rebuild from the floor up, but they think they're definitely in need of some areas that they need to address. And you can look at it and say, the luxury of having 3 really good receivers probably can't continue for, a long time into the future. Other spots on the line that they've, given a lot of money to, you probably can't, linebacker through the years has been one, not so much at the current moment here, but through the years it has been because of Wagner and KJ Wright and so forth. And they're going to have to find a different way to calibrate the roster to make it be that championship competing roster again, because I know we keep coming back to it. Geno Smith's having a pretty dang good year given the circumstances he's playing with, and they still have lost, 5 of 6. Right. To be where they're at. So it's not been the quarterback play that's held them back. It's been that line of scrimmage.
Well, I guess I would just ask this. Yeah, I mean, in terms of a rebuild, and again, I know that there's this narrative that, hey, this team doesn't rebuild. They reload. Well, I mean, they have. I mean, we just detailed when they had a rebuild. They did a massive roster construction of when they first got the job. It's just been, because they've been relevant for the last 14, 15 years. They've been a good football team, so they haven't had to really strip it down. I think when you look at it, I would just say that they're going to go into an offseason. Let's say Tim and I are right. And generally, Tim and I are right about a lot of stuff, Curtis, okay? and let's say they finish 6-11. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot of games this year that could have gone differently for them. I mean, honestly, that they could be staring at a season that was 10-7 easily. But I would just say with how problematic it is on the offensive line, like how close are they to actually winning it? And then I would say, okay, do you go into an offseason where you commit a lot of money potentially to DK Metcalf? I mean, a lot. I mean, he's going to want $140+ million, probably about $100 million guaranteed. Now, I'm a big fan of DK Metcalf. They've been searching for this guy forever. They finally found it. I found someone like him who's a dominant wide receiver. But there comes a cost of you can't pay everyone, especially in the NFL. Okay, so if you do have a large amount of your cap or a contract that goes to him, you have to make a decision. If you bring him back, you've most likely at that point you've got to bring back Smith at some point. Now, what does Geno Smith deal look like? He's going to want to be paid like an upper tier quarterback. And he's going to go to him and say, listen, look at these numbers. I'm one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He believes he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And so what does that look like now? Because now you're starting to chew up a lot of money in two players, which, again, they're very good players. But if there's no offensive line to block, what's the benefit, Curtis, of spending that much money in two skill position players if still the root of the problem is you can't block anyone?
Yeah, that is the question, and I do think it's legitimate to look at DK Metcalf's future in that way. Not necessarily for the trade deadline that just passed, because it doesn't shock me that they didn't move him right now. But if you don't think that that's a question they're going to have to wrestle with come March, like that's absolutely one, because that's the biggest thing I think you have to look at there for a player that is looking at a contract, $30 million a year, somewhere in that ballpark, and I don't know that they're close enough to have that luxury right now to pay a wide receiver that, given where they're at. And then the Geno Smith contract part of it is certainly up for grabs, because I think Geno Smith is plenty good enough as a quarterback, but it's the asset at this point when he's on the wrong side of 30 years old that does make the discussion about whether he continues as a quarterback a question, depending on how close you feel like they are. So that part of it, I do think, is a legitimate discussion to have for sure. I just don't, when we talk about rebuild, like I said, I think there's this notion that you have to tear everything down, trade everything off, and start from ground zero again. And I don't think that that's where they're at, but they're definitely in a circumstance where they're going to have to look to refocus what they're doing, what is the best path forward for the future, and figure it out. Because, I mean, at least when they did it under Pete Carroll when he first came in, that team had won 9 games in 2 years. Like that, there was a reason that they were going to do that at that point in time, given the last year of Holmgren and the only year of Jim Mora there. This team isn't that yet, and I think it's got plenty of talent on it across the roster, but there are some areas there because of the circumstance that you are going to have to make some decisions on.
Yeah, because, I mean, Tim, you look at some of the cap hits next season. Now, I think we all agree that, if they decide to do something with Geno, he's not going to certainly play on that cap hit. That cap hit's $38 million next season. Then you got DK at 31. We'll see if they do something with it in the offseason. But you got Tyler Lockett, $30 million. Leonard Williams at $29 million. Draymond Jones at $25. Nwosu at $21. Noah Fant has got a cap hit next season of $13 million. I mean, there is, unless they get real creative and things they can do, and again, somebody find a capologist, they can get all creative with the salary cap. But the point is just this: it does illustrate where they don't. be hard for them to go out and like whatever free agents on the market, Tim, as an offensive lineman, and go spend a bunch of money, because they really at this point don't have the resources. And, would a player, if they decided to move on in the offseason, but the trade, bring back enough draft capital to where they could upgrade it and look at the future of upgrading that offensive line? Because the other thing with the quarterback situation is this: he's played very good, but he's 35. And, the one, I think, regret that they have, and I guess maybe, Tim, miscalculation, is when they traded Russell Wilson, which was a great trade, there was never an answer for post-Russell. Like, they still have yet to solve that. Maybe they thought it was Drew Lock, but it wasn't Drew Lock. Maybe they think it's Sam Howell, but I don't know. You guys were at training camp. You tell me if there's something there with Sam Howell. I mean, that still remains the biggest question mark for them besides the offensive line is, you do need a quarterback to really, really win in this league, and most likely like an elite quarterback.
It's kind of like, and this is no disrespect to Geno, because I think if you go back, 2 years ago, Geno's played beyond what I think anybody thought was going to be the case when he stepped in for Russell. But it's this constant game of kicking the can down the road. Right. And it's like, oh, we'll deal with the quarterback later. We'll deal with the quarterback later. And it's going to be, we're going to bring Drew Lock in, and maybe he's going to be the guy. And now we're bringing in Sam Howell, and maybe he's going to be the guy. The one thing with Geno and his age is that, yes, he is 35, but when you don't play for however many years it was that he really didn't play, in essence, your football age is in theory, younger than what that is. Obviously, over time, age and skill are going to start to diminish, or your skills are going to start to diminish a little bit as you get older, and eventually that's going to catch up with you. But I think they look at Geno as being a young, 35 for what it is. But to your point, yeah, do you feel like you can win a championship with Geno, considering the circumstances that are around him? And are you going to commit a $38 million cap hit to him next year? Are you going to commit a $30 million cap hit to Tyler Lockett for next year? I mean, I think I pulled up over the cap while you guys were talking. They've got 43 contracts committed for next year, and they're already almost $5 million over the cap. What the projected cap is going to be for next year. They've got some math that they have to figure out along with the deficiencies that they have. And it kind of goes back to, you can't miss in the draft. You can't miss while these guys are cheap. And whether it's, Christian Haynes this year, or Abe Lucas with his injuries that he's had, or Anthony Bradford just not being the guy that they thought he was going to be. Like, when we talk about these issues with the line of scrimmage, it can all kind of revolve back to, they've missed on guys in the draft. They've tried to invest draft capital in some of these guys when you can put together a unit that's cheap, and it hasn't worked out for whatever the reason it might be. And so then when you do allocate your money in other ways to the skill position, to the stars of the team, and then you have these deficiencies on the line of scrimmage, it just amplifies itself even more, that now, I need to go get myself a right guard, or I need to go get myself an elite center, and I don't have the assets available because it's all tied up in our skill position guys, or our star players, in essence, because we've missed in the draft and haven't gotten those guys when they are cheap and are able to create a roster that's financially, manageable, more or less. So it's a great asset allocation question for this team going into the offseason. Where do you need to put your money? Where do you need to put your resources to try and put this thing together so that it's better than what it's been this year? And it might be a total strip down, or it might be the little tweaks that Curtis is talking about, but there are some massive financial questions that this team will have.
Because what they're going to find themselves, Curtis, if they, this is, I think, the worry, right, for any organization, is you're stuck in the middle, right? 9-8, 10-7, right in there. It's like, that is where you're just good enough. You're good enough to maybe get in the playoffs. You lose in the wild card, but that's not their goal, right? That's their goal is to win the division and win another Lombardi Trophy, right? That's everyone's goal. Some teams you believe, and other teams like Jacksonville you don't believe. But it's like that's the goal for most of the teams. So it's a real conundrum for them in the offseason. I think for John Schneider. And I'm just curious, does John Schneider have, I would think so from ownership. Does he have enough confidence? Does the ownership have enough confidence in him if he were to go to them and say, listen, I think we got to make some drastic moves here. I think we got to rip this down a little bit. Start not completely start over, but we need to get some more draft capital. We need to build it up. Are you comfortable with us doing that? Is Mike McDonald comfortable doing that?
Well, I think given the reins to hire a new head coach, he's got some runway to make some changes for a path forward as well to pair with that. But yeah, as you mentioned, I would assume that Draymond Jones and Noah Fant are Tyler Lockett. Those are contracts that aren't going to be tenable for next year. So they're either going to be gone or they're going to have to be extensions and reworked or circumstances like that. I just do want to caution fans that I think they forget what it's like to have a bad quarterback. It's been a very, very long time since the Seahawks have had a bad quarterback. You probably have to go back to the Trent Dilfer, Matt Hasselbeck year, where the quarterback play has been extremely bad for their starting quarterback. Even the year Tavares started in 2011, he wasn't great, but he was adequate as a quarterback. It's been a long time since they've had the position be a net negative by an extremely long point for a starting quarterback. And I'm not saying Sam Howell's definitely going to be that or anything, but it is the question you have to ask yourself, because when you have a team that does not have a quarterback at the NFL level, it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable. And then you're constantly trying to find one. And I mean, you think of how long Detroit was in the cellar before Jared Goff came along, and they got a front office that was competent. You can be stuck down there for a very long time. The Seahawks themselves were in that position for an exceptionally long time. So yeah, there are reasons to make a decision like that and go that direction, but you have to realize that there can be consequences if it doesn't go right for you, where you can end up being a team that's in the basement for a long, long time if you don't make those right calls as well. So it's not a flippant call here to just say, okay, we'll move on from Geno, move on from this, and start from the bottom up again, because it's not always that easy. Finding that quarterback can be a tough part, and they've kind of found out that they kind of lucked into another really good one here with Geno for the last couple of years. But they are at a crossroads a little bit with their roster construction and what they're going to do on that front moving forward for sure.
That's a bye-week edition of the Ground Puck Podcast is in the books with Curtis Crabtree at Fox 13. Curtis, tell everybody where you can find all your work.
Yeah, fox13seattle.com and on my Twitter account, Curtis_Crabtree.
And Tim Booth, who is now, of course, at the Seattle Times. Tim, give them all the details where they can find your work.
SeattleTimes.com. I'm on X. I'm starting to try out Blue Sky. It's all by Tim Booth on those platforms. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, it's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. Been pouring the best local craft beer past 23 years. Makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodhisattva IPA, host of your other favorite beers. Tap room open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. You can find this episode up on YouTube. Just search Puck Sports. Please subscribe. Also, later on the podcast, and later, if you're listening to it later, you already know. Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and of course, up at pucksports.com. Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Puck.
Hey, Puck.
How about I unmute my microphone, you idiot? We caught up with those guys earlier today. Big thanks again to Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree for joining us on another edition of course, the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast. As I mentioned before, you can find it. If you're joining us late, all the platforms are available for you. When you do go to YouTube, please subscribe. That would be great. And then, of course, on all the audio platforms as well, Apple and Spotify. The Puck Sports mobile app for iOS users. For Android users, I promise, it's a broken record. It's been a slow process, but it's coming. It's coming soon. Our app guy, Jacob, is checking in on that again today, and hopefully we'll have an update for you very soon. All right, before we gonna get on out of here for another edition of the Daily Puck Drop, I want to mention coming up later this afternoon, after I take a long nap to get over this flu, I'm going to tape a special high school football preview show that we'll make available later tonight. So look for that on all the different channels. Myself, John Manley of the Tacoma News Tribune, Todd Millis of Scorebook Live, .wa, and Chris Egan of King 5. They are the three best individuals that cover high school sports. No one does it better than those three. Todd and John are in the weeds every week, interviewing players, the knowledge that they have for all the teams. And it's just not the West Side teams, the Eastern Washington teams everywhere is unmatched in this market. And please go subscribe, especially the News Tribune. Scorebooklive.waz is free, I believe, but go subscribe to the Tacoma News Tribune. John's high school work is fantastic. And then Egan, every week has been doing the King 5 big game of the week and has such passion for it. That's going to come out later. We're going to tape it later this afternoon. We'll come out later tonight, previewing the 4A and 3A. We'll get into the other divisions as well, 2A and 1A. I'm going to ask them their thoughts, but we'll primarily focus in on the 4A and 3A. Good chat there with Tim and Curtis just about the future where the Seahawks. And I'll just pose this question one more time, and I think we'll continue to have this theme throughout the week. If they go 6-11. Just curious what people feel about the team. Like what direction should they go in? Saying the dreaded R word, it makes a lot of people nervous. And I get it. Because when you announce or decide, you don't really announce it. I don't think you come out in a press conference and go, we're on a rebuild. But when you do go that route of doing something like that, you are, one, does it work? Two, you're telling your fan base that, hey, don't expect a lot of wins. And it's hard, especially in this market with this team, where they've been over the last decade plus, that it's not going to be a competitive football team. But they're going to have some hard decisions to make this offseason, some really hard, difficult decisions. And I do believe their offensive line is three players away, and then depending on where Lucas is, it's 4 players away. They have an issue on that offensive line, and it's bad. And I've watched football this weekend and saw some really good offensive line play, specifically Detroit and Kansas City, where I'm watching guys just with time to throw, holes are open, and it just makes your life, especially for a quarterback, that much easier. So we're going to see where they go in these next few weeks. Is going to say a lot for where this team is going to head and what they start looking at as the season winds down. All right, before we go and wrap up the Daily Puck Drop, Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, a restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. This one I hit me hard and hit a lot of people hard who knew Brian Wheeler, who were friends with Brian Wheeler, who worked with Brian Wheeler. He's got a relationship and a Rolodex of people in this business that spans, multiple cities. Grew up in Chicago, Loyola of Chicago, moved out to Seattle to work, for the Sonics for a few years. Ended up hosting a radio show at KJR and, built some just fabulous relationships with so many people, at that radio station. He ends up going to Sacramento for a little bit, a cup of coffee, ends up working for the WNBA team and then doing some pre and post game stuff for the Kings, and then got his opportunity to be the play-by-play voice of the Portland Trailblazers for 21 years. And he replaced a legend in Bill Schonely. And having worked in that market, Bill Schonely is as respected as a broadcaster that you'll ever find in any market. He's beloved, and he was a terrific broadcaster. And so when Wheeler took that over, and I didn't know Brian at the time when he took that job. I didn't meet Brian until I moved to Portland and started working there in 2001. But, you're replacing someone. You don't want to be the guy that replaces the legend. And he did. And he became a just wonderful and unbelievable broadcaster in his own right. And he was vastly different from Bill. And Wheeler would admit he was a homer. But that's what you wanted from your hometown radio guy. You wanted a homer. You wanted someone that was like one of you, that called it like a fan. And Wheeler did that. When I got to Portland in 2001, I was 23 years of age, out of college, where I was, I've detailed the story many times, my goal coming out of college was to be a play-by-play broadcaster. That's what I wanted to do. And, I'm working 1,000 different jobs on the Oregon coast, working in Portland, basically working for free at the Fan, which was the sports radio station there in town, the only one in the town at that time. And I got to know Brian because I would go over and cover the Blazers. And Brian, he was a star, and he couldn't have been more welcoming to a 23-year-old kid who was just trying to start off in this business, who had no idea what to expect, to get any. I mean, you learn education. There was an education at Washington State about broadcasting, but not like real world broadcasting, like how to do it. What does it sound like? How to execute it, to have someone kind of coach you up. And he did that. He took me under his wing. I went with him to California for a broadcasting school. I went to him with Las Vegas to call summer league games with him, and he never stopped. He would listen to my tapes. He would give me like this unbelievable detailed feedback on what he liked, what he didn't like. Hey, you should do this here. You should do this here. And I will forever be indebted to Brian, because he had such a big heart. He was a big personality. He struggled with many issues, especially later in his life. But he just couldn't have been nicer to a lot of people, but couldn't have been nicer to me. And, when I think back as I've gotten older and young people, I'm 48, but I still think I'm like, 15. When people ask for advice, I never hesitate to offer that advice out to people, is whatever advice you can offer. And because of guys like Brian Wheeler, because he was adamant that he would help, he would adamant that he would listen, and he would always just understand where you were coming from and how could he help you. There was no, I'm sure he had an ego. Everyone's got an ego. But he would just put his arm around me and just always offered me advice. And then, I would, as I moved up and worked in Portland, moved to Seattle, we'd always stay in touch. He had a show down there. I'd go on his show. He, one of the best things that we did recently is a few years ago, probably more than a few years ago. Mike Gastineau, the Gas Man, was working with an outfit for the Jamaican basketball team. They're trying to qualify for the Olympics. And so Gas was like, hey, we're going to do this like 24-hour fundraiser to raise money for the Jamaican basketball team, because one of their friends was putting it on. He's like, hey, but we're going to do this fundraiser. It's going to air. We need to be 24 hours. Would you mind being a part of it for a couple of hours? And I'm like, sure. Who's it going to be with? It's going to be with Jeff Aaron, the fisherman. Everyone remember Fish, and Brian Wheeler. And I love both of those guys. I could say the same things about Jeff Aaron that I'll say about Brian Wheeler. And we sat and we hosted this show that aired, and it was 2, almost 3 hours, no commercial breaks. We were just going, and just to hear the storytelling from those two guys that I admire so much and had the pleasure, to work with both of them, was awesome. It was just sensational. And, that was like one of the last times I had in a working capacity got to work with Brian and just hear his stories. And even when I moved to Seattle, he'd always just offer advice about things. I still would send him tapes. I would have him listen to the show, tell me what he likes. And again, he would always respond back with great feedback. I love him dearly. I'm going to miss him, just like a lot of people in our business. A lot of people at KJR who worked with him years and years ago. I know have all had their outpouring of support and their messages online, and I would just echo those things. He was just a beautiful human being to me personally. So thank you to Brian Wheeler. So as I close out, Hey, What the Puck, I wanted to play just a little montage of some of his clips of his time as a broadcaster for the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers actually did. I didn't have to really do any work because the Blazers are the one who put this together. And then I added his last call as a Blazers broadcaster was the game winner Damian Lillard made against Oklahoma City. Love you, Wheels. Rest in peace. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Visit them, Restoration One, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. Rest in peace, big guy.
Blake now throws to Roy. Brandon, a three-pointer out front. Hit it! Yes, he did! Oh, yeah! Oh, Portland, an incredible scene. Why weren't you here tonight? Batum throws to Lillard. A three for the game. Bang! You've got to pinch me. I must be dreaming. I'll pinch you. Now Roy into the front court to Blake. Back to Roy. Back to Blake, to Roy. Three-pointer for the lead. Yeah! They're dancing in the aisles here at the Rose Garden. It's absolute bedlam. And Brandon Roy now with 50 points. Tipped away, Jackson got it back to Sabonis. Three-pointer for the tie. It's in. Left to the key. If I wasn't here, I wouldn't believe what I just saw. Lillard to pull up three. And again! Doc Rivers is mystified, mesmerized, and mortified. Boom! Chakalaka! Roy has it now against Marion. An all-NBA defender. Brandon gets past him. Jumper in the lane. Banks it in! Timeout, Dallas! My eyes don't deceive, so I have to believe. And once again, we can say it's a great day to be a Blazer. And has there ever been a better day to be a Blazer? Lillard doesn't want to pick. Dame going for the win. A three-pointer for the game.